Representative Ted Poe, Republican from Texas, thanks so much for being here. Well, you sit on the House Subcommittee on Terrorism. Why is it that Republicans are having such a hard time renewing the Patriot Act, and what steps do the Republicans plan to take in order to get it renewed?
The Patriot Act has been communicated by the national media probably in an inappropriate way. It has been perked a whole lot better, and so that it protects not only national security but individual liberty, and its extension till the end of the year is something that's important. I think that when that education process is finished with the new House members, there won't be a problem passing the Patriot Act.
This is something that you support?
Yes, of course.
Why does our nation need this almost 10 years since September 11th?
Because we are still fighting international terrorists who, in the name of religion, want to kill Americans anywhere they can find Americans. They haven't stopped their war against the United States, and so we have to continue to be vigilant and make sure that when we find these people, we capture them, we arrest them, and we take them to Guantanamo Bay Prison.
This comes at a time when Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano says that the U.S. is at the greatest risk for a terror attack since September 11th. Do President Obama's policies make us less safe?
I think the message that he's communicating to the world, in my opinion, does not deter terrorists against the United States. I think he needs to come across stronger to make sure that the world knows, that terrorists know, to leave America alone. So it's the communication on the part of the administration I think needs to be changed.
Okay, what do you think that he should be doing instead?
Well, he should make sure that people understand that our government is going to do everything it can to protect America and protect Americans wherever they are. And that if it woe be to anybody who, in the name of any radical religion, wants to commit a crime against the United States, that we will find them, we will track them down, and they're going to be held accountable for that conduct. We need to make that message clear.
Violence continues erupting along the U.S. Mexican border, and I know that this is a big issue for you and for Texans, your constituents. How are we going to secure our borders and combat illegal immigration?
Well, just what you're talking about on terrorism. We're trying to do what we can nationally in protecting us against international terrorism. But the obvious entry place into the United States for terrorists is not going to be flying into some airport. They're going to come across the southern border. Every nation on earth knows the greatest power, the United States, refuses to protect the sovereignty of its southern border. We protect the sovereignty of other nations, Iraq, Afghanistan. We won't protect our own. What we need to do is first let Washington understand that there are portions of the Texas-Mexico border that are under the operational control of the drug cartel. Mexico, the United States, neither one have control of certain portions of the border. More troops. I've introduced legislation to put 10,000 National Guard troops on the border and paid for by the federal government, but supervised by the 4 state governors. Our Border Patrol wants that. We need more boots on the ground, and we need to mean it when we say that we're going to protect the United States.
A revolt from the right has the GOP scrambling to cut tens of billions more than the $74 billion they want to save. Is that $74 billion figure going to go up? And if so, by how much?
Well, I hope the spending cuts are a whole lot more than $74 billion. I don't think that, personally, I don't think that's enough. That's not much of a cut to me. I think we should review every program that we have. We should review foreign aid, for example. We give money to most of the countries on earth, and it's time that we stop doing that. We should give money only to countries in our national interest, maybe Israel, and then maybe not any of the others. Foreign aid's a perfect example. But let's go across the board, look at things where government has just intruded into the personal sovereignty, really, of state responsibility, individual responsibility, and cut that massive government spending. $74 billion is not near enough.
What about defense? Should defense cuts be off or on the table?
When it comes to the military, we need to make sure we always spend enough money to protect the United States. There may be some programs in defense that are wasteful spending. I'm not sure of those yet, but we should look at it. But I'm one that believes that that is an obligation of the federal government, and our federal government needs to do consistently a very good job of supporting the military, making sure we have enough personnel and equipment to protect the United States.
Speaking of cuts, how confident are you that Republicans will be able to defund Obamacare?
Well, that is something that the American public is opposed to. That's the reason for the change in the House of Representatives. We have that obligation in the House to to eliminate the funding for Obamacare. I've introduced legislation to not allow any money to go for the implementation of that act. Others have too. We'll have a vote on that. I suspect it will pass the House. We'll just move on with the Senate and make sure that no money is appropriated by the taxpayers through the House that will fund the nationalized health care bill.
Last question real quickly. You spent more than 20 years as a judge prior to entering Congress. Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan was the Obama administration's Solicitor General. Should she recuse herself if the case over the constitutionality of Obamacare, if that case goes before the Supreme Court?
Yes, based on my experience as a judge and looking at her objectivity, she cannot be I do not think she should rule on that case. She took the position that obviously it's constitutional in her mind, gave that administration that advice. Now she's sitting on the Supreme Court. She's going to make a decision on this case. She should recuse herself. That's the right thing to do, but she will not do so.
Representative Ted Poe, Republican from Texas, thanks so much for joining us.